To get started roasting coffee at home, you're going to need some sort of green coffee. My go-to place for coffee is Sweet Maria's. Sweet Maria's has a great subscription plan that you can get into and have it shipped to you monthly, every 2 months, whatever. I get the sample pack, so that means I get multiple types of green beans from different places, and I get to try all these different flavors. This is my setup. I've got the burner. It's like a turkey fryer burner for outdoors. It's the high BTU setup. It's got a air damper right here that helps adjust the flame so I can get the flame right over the basket. I have my electric roasting basket there. I get that at Amazon. It's about $100. This is how I started right here. I started with a popcorn popper, and you can get this at Sweet Maria's. You can put your beans in there and basically crank it over the burner and put a little temperature probe down in the hole there on the top. I had to elongate it a little bit so I can get my probe down there. I used a digital thermometer with the wire type probe that I can get down on the beans and just kind of monitor the temperature. The basket here, they're replaceable. You can get new ones. Fully adjustable, speed control. It's battery operated, so you can plug it in and it will rotate for a couple of roasts and then on the battery and then charge it. Just standard propane tank that I have. It lasts me 6 months easily. This is my aluminum strainer I have, or stainless steel. I have it over a cyclone fan that basically blows straight up on it to help cool and remove the chafe. Again, here is Sweet Maria's green beans. This one here is a Kenya blend. The first one I showed was not a Kenya. And like I said, I get a sample pack. Got my lighter, and I got my gloves. My gloves to help take the basket off the roaster when the beans are ready. And how I determine the beans are ready is basically by sound and smell. I can see through the basket a little bit. It's hard to really tell the actual color of the bean. You have to stop it, turn the burner off, and take a look at it. I've kind of come to where I just know exactly where I want to be by the sound of the cracking, and we'll get into what the cracking is and all that. So I'm just going to dump the green beans in the basket here. Pretty simple. This setup here that I did when I recorded, I actually kind of didn't do it exactly the way I normally do it, because you'll see here in a minute when I turn the burner on, I don't have the basket closed and it's not rotating. That's what I always do. I don't know why when I recorded this video I didn't do it, but I didn't. So my tank setup here, I have a pretty standard setting that I started at. And I started at that setting and I adjust the air damper to get the flame right. And then once I determine whether it's burning too hot or too cool, I will adjust the gas input. See here, I just lit it without the burner rotating. It's not going to hurt anything, but it wasn't what I normally do. I normally do that, turn it on, then light the burner. So here you can see the flame is going pretty good. It's a little higher than I really like it, but I kind of need it a little high like that just to get it lit, because I live in Washington and it gets windy, and as you see there, I was adjusting the air damper and the flame went out. So I'll get the flame adjusted properly to the right burn, and then I will adjust the actual gas input down a little bit to adjust it so it's not quite burning as high as it is in this picture right here. As you can see there, turn it down a little bit, and once I get it to the right spot, I will just let it go. And from here, as you can see there, I turned it down about 1/8 of a turn, maybe 1/4. And that's kind of the burn that I like right there. I've noticed in cooler temperatures, it definitely takes a little longer for the beans to roast, and warmer temperatures like in the summer, it's a little bit quicker. Here's a roast chart that just kind of shows you what we're going to be doing as far as temperatures and color. 485 is about the highest temperature you want to go to. That gets you up to the number 16. About 420 to 430 is going to get you at about number 5. And so just going to basically let this thing sit back and start roasting. It's going to take about 8 to minutes or so for it to get to the first crack, and I will speed up the video, and once we get to the first crack we will definitely listen to that so you can hear what that's all about. As you can see, I just adjusted the speed on the basket rotating. I normally always let it rotate at high. Once it starts doing the first crack, I basically, if I'm doing something out in the yard or whatever while this is turning, I basically will start paying a little more attention to it. The higher the flame, the quicker it's going to roast, but also the less even the roast is going to become. It's what I've found. So that's why I try to find the happy medium there for the flame, and let that burner just kind of do its job, and let the roaster rotate the beans there, and just quickly tossing them about. As you can see, the little glare are the chaff burning. As the beans roast, the shell or the lining on the bean will start coming off, and that's called the chaff, and that's just kind of burning away. It kind of makes a mess. You can see on the burner there's a little bit of accumulated chaff along the edges. The wind kind of helps blow that stuff around, but it's definitely something you want to get out of your coffee, and that's why at the end of the video we'll show you the strainer that I use and the fan, and why I use that, and how we get the chaff out with that. It's a pretty easy setup. I like it. There's a couple different ways you can do it, but that's the way I've chosen to do it. And by no means is I any expert on roasting. My son got me into it. He started doing it, showed me. I started with the popcorn popper, and I moved on to this, found this on Amazon, and I like this setup a lot better because I can see what's going on. I can smell it and hear it better. And as you see here, we're starting to get some smoke. So we're getting close to the beans actually getting to a very light roast, light to medium. And that means we're getting up to about 400, 420 degrees. 420 to 450 is the range that you basically are looking to roast at. Like I said, I do it all by visual, the look of the bean. As it starts roasting, you get the first crack, which happens about 385 degrees, and you'll hear the crack of the bean. It's a little popping sound, and you hear it in the video here. And then as it gets onto its second crack, which it will start getting to here in a second, it's going to smoke a little bit more. It's going to start cracking more and more frequently. And for my roast, I'm a dark roast person. We both like it that way, so that's where I do it. This thing's going to start taking off here in a second. The color is going to start changing very rapidly, and the smoke is going to get more and more intense as it starts turning. And once it gets to that point to where the cracking is just happening faster and faster and faster, and the smoke is getting thicker and thicker, it's about time. What I'll do is when it gets to the point that I think it's about ready, I will shut off the burner. I will let it continue to rotate so that I can let the beans kind of even out, get equally darkened or roasted. And as you see here, the smoke is really starting to come out now. The beans, you can visibly see they're darker. It's hard to really tell how dark they are. And I've already turned the flame off. I've got this thing spinning. It's cracking like crazy. And we're going to go ahead and let it rotate for a little while longer, and then we're going to stop it. We're going to open the basket and look at it. If at that point they don't look like they are dark enough for me, I'll light the burner back up, and I will start rotating it some more and give it maybe not even a minute to get a little darker, get a little more roasted. And when I feel that it's at its point that it needs to stop, I'll turn it off. And here I'm doing my check right now. Going to open the basket, take a look. It's nice and smoky. That is pretty much about where I like it, maybe a little bit darker. But if I get in the range of this to a little bit darker, I'm usually pretty happy with it. You can see the beans are pretty evenly roasted. There's a few that are going to be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to continue letting it to rotate here to kind of even out that color on those beans, get the other ones that aren't quite as dark as the others, and try to let it even out so I get, you know, a more even roast. And so this is going to spin for a few more. And once we turn it off, we are going to put it into the stainless steel strainer that I have. You use stainless steel because it's a little more durable. I could shake it around. I could put these 450 degree beans in there with no problem. And it's not going to melt or cause me problems, leave any flavor or anything like that. I have a dedicated, you know, strainer just for doing this. You have to be careful when you're doing your roast though, because if you let it go too far, get too smoky, it is going to burn. It's going to catch fire and you're going to ruin the beans. So there's kind of a fine line between when it's dark enough and when it's on fire. Basically above 485 degrees is where you're going to start having some problems if you're using a thermometer. And like I said, I basically just go all on sound and smell. I smell, you know, what the coffee's doing, and I hear what the coffee's doing. And I just kind of have that point to where I know I'm pretty close. So here I just dumped the beans into my strainer, and I'm basically just going to use the strainer here to let it cool the beans down. But also you see here the chafe inside the basket, inside the strainer on the sides and the edges and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of stir it around. I'm going to flip it a little bit. Do that for a couple of minutes until I feel like there's no more chafe in there, or at least very little. Some of these beans, depending upon how they're processed, there's a dry process, and there's just different processes that the different growers use to get their beans ready. So some create more chafe than others. Some have very little chafe. You know, maybe it just burns off while you're doing the roast. But basically I'm just gonna, this one here looks like a pretty heavy chafe actually. So I'm just gonna basically flip it around, let it cool, let that chafe blow out. I don't know if you can see in the video there, but you got pieces of chafe just kind of flying up, and I'm just kind of I'm kind of shaking it over the highest wind blow area that fan puts out, so it kind of pushes that air straight up through. You know, the chafe is really light, so it's going to blow away pretty easily. And once it's all cool and to that point, I'm just going to go ahead and be done with it. I'm going to let it sit. Let it sit basically for 24 hours in the strainer. Let it air out. There's a process that it needs to go through to decarb it, which basically is releasing the CO2 that's within the bean and the roast. I don't know if there's a more technical term, but you basically just need to let it air out, degas. And in about 24 hours, you're ready to go ahead and start using it. So that's what I do. I roast every Sunday morning, and I start drinking it every Monday morning. And we enjoy the coffee. We do a pound a week. I am on the 2-month subscription for 8 pounds with Sweet Maria's. And Sweet Maria's, they have a lot of information on their site, products you can buy, roasters, lots of helpful information and tips. And I really like that site. I like how prompt they are on getting my shipments out. And if I ever run low, which happens, I will order extra 4 pounds in between. Yes, I have caught a couple of batches on fire from letting it roast too long. It seems every time I walk away from the roaster for a few minutes after I start it, I have the burner too high and it just goes crazy, and I walk back out and the next thing I know it's pretty much on fire. So I just dump it out in the dirt, take some shovel, throw some dirt on top of the beans and call it a waste, and I just go ahead and do another batch. It's only happened a few times. I've been roasting for a couple of years. And this is basically my process for roasting coffee. It's a good process. It's got a nice dark bean there. It's not quite too shiny. The oilier it is, the more intense darkness. And here, it's kind of a little on the other side of maybe being oily. Some beans produce a little bit more oil than others, what I've noticed.